This is your before and after story. Prepare for an incredible career in nursing. At Southeastern College, experience expert hands-on training. Learn real-world skills in our professional lab and simulated settings. And train for opportunities as a practical nurse, registered nurse, or career advancement with our RN to BSN program. At Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sec.edu to get started.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN By The Books, on this Monday edition of Dave Ross with Jensen Lewis here. Always love catching up with our guy, Cody Decker, co-host of Beetle and Decker. Give him a follow on X at Decker6. Joins us here on this Monday on a progressive guest line. And Cody, how was the weekend, my friend? What'd you make of all these sweeps? When you get all these, this is a new thing for baseball, right? All these regional games. And yet it felt like, we had 7 sweeps over the weekend. That seems a little bit unnatural in baseball.
I took absolutely nothing from it. It's May 19th. I still take absolutely nothing from almost all of this to this point. The Angels swept the Dodgers. Ooh, are the Angels up and coming? No, they're not. What are we talking about? It's an outlier weekend. The Yankees took 2 or 3 from the Mets. I mean, it was just a solid weekend of baseball. And by the way, like I tried to tell you guys weeks ago, don't sleep on the Braves. I know they started 0-8, and all of a sudden, a game over 500, just 5 games behind the Mets. It's coming.
It definitely is, buddy. Great to have you back, as always, on a Monday. Also great to see this year that the Detroit Tigers have put together thus far. 3.5 games clear of the Yankees for the top spot overall in the American League. Two-parter for you. Your assessment of kind of where Javi Baez's story year is, because I think you and I have seen plenty of free air conditioning from him in years past, not being able to hit anything that comes remotely close to him. However, what a resurgence. But also just the overall way they have played. Where's the staying power for you with Detroit as we move forward into the rest of the season?
Their pitching is as good as anybody else. You got Scuba, you got Mize, and they're getting it all done. And offensively, this was a team that I thought offensively wouldn't go toe-to-toe with a ton of people. Torkelson having a great year, but look no further than Javi Baez. I mean, the guy, like as you mentioned, has been allergic to wood since he's put the D on his forehead. It's been borderline embarrassing. You've mentioned the free air conditioning you get. I mean, there's memes after memes after memes of this guy swinging at pitch outs over the last 2.5 years. Yet here he is with 6 home runs, hitting walk-offs. He's got about a 300 average. But most importantly, the OPS is 811. I mean, this is a guy that simply did nothing of the kind these last couple of years. So, yes, he's returning to form. Him out in center field is kind of a new type of resurgence for him. And frankly, right now, the AL Central just might be the very best division in Major League Baseball. I mean, I did not see myself saying that at the beginning of the year. I don't know how the Guardians keep finding themselves in a position that they're still winning. I don't know how the Twins just went off on a 10-0 run. And, you know, of course, you got a couple guys that you don't need on concussion protocol going on concussion protocol. But then there's also the Royals. By the way, the Royals are 4 games over 500, and they're in 4th place in this division. This is a wild division right now.
Yeah, the only team in baseball with 30 or more wins is the Tigers with 31. And you mentioned it here, gentlemen. Everybody else, not named the White Sox, have at least 25 wins in that division so far. So it's really good. And the Royals, in any other division right now would be right there nipping at the heels, at least for first place in just about every other one. The other division that you can make a case for, I guess, would be the NL West. Like the outliers, the White Sox, certainly in the Central, and, of course, the Rockies out west. But that 1 through 4, Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and D-backs, where would you place them in that hierarchy, as we just mentioned, with the guys in the Central?
I know that we're talking about the Tigers being incredible right now, but I still firmly believe the NL West is the very best division in Major League Baseball, with, of course, the exception of the Colorado Rockies, who should be relegated maybe to lacrosse or something, a different altogether sport. The Diamondbacks are a hell of a team, 25-22. And I heard somebody yesterday comically saying out loud, and I understand why they said it, but hyperbole much, my God. You're like, yeah, the Diamondbacks just can't get over the hump. They're 3 games over 500. You put them in any other league, they're in first place. Get over the hump. What are you talking about? Yeah, they're in 4th place right now in the National League West, but they're 4 games behind the Dodgers. They're like just a couple of games behind the Giants. Everybody in that division is just as grouped up as the American League Central. These are the 2 best divisions in baseball as of right now. We'll see how the year goes forward, but the AL East is not the AL beast of the past. The NL East is not the NL beast of the past. I truly think these are the 2 best divisions of baseball by far, and the National League Central exists.
We go back to from not only the best here, Cody, but now we go to a team that I think all of us agreed was probably the biggest disappointment in Major League Baseball, and that's the Baltimore Orioles. Now lost 6 in a row. They relieved Brandon Hyde of his duties. My former college teammate, Tony Mansolino, now the interim manager. I don't know how you come back from being 15 games under 500 with just the pitching staff alone that they have assembled. Where do you go now for Baltimore? And from a betting perspective, I know we love to fade Colorado and we'll just do it until the wheels fall off. But do we get maybe a little resurgence here from Baltimore? Or is this still just a really bad baseball team overall?
I think it's a really bad baseball team overall.
Wow.
This is a team that did nothing this offseason. I'm really disappointed because they're not without talent, as we've seen these last couple of years. This is a young core that's supposed to be hovering around the playoffs for years and years to come. But that pitching staff is dreadful, and they've created themselves amazingly. You create this pipeline of prospects to the big leagues that eventually gets kind of corroded because you find yourself in a position where you have too many prospects. It's almost like too many cooks in the kitchen, and it's like they don't want to part with any of these prospects to go get a surefire arm because they don't want to invest in arms because arms break down. Well, you know what also doesn't help? Bad arms. Good arms might break down, but bad arms gets you 15 wins halfway through May. So I don't really blame Brandon Hyde. I mean, how can you? Look at what they've done. This is a team that thought they can improve with subtraction. You don't get better by replacing Corbin Burns with Charlie Morton Jr. I'm sorry. That's not a Brandon Hyde decision.
It's not. And then, of course, yeah, they don't give you any help in the front office, then they fire you. That is a double whammy if you ever heard one. Speaking of that division, how about the Red Sox quietly being 2 games under 500? Their divisional odds right now at 5-1 are actually longer than they were before the season began with the Yankees off to this torrid start. It feels like they've got all the pieces. Devers feels like he's starting to hit a little bit. Why is this not yet clicking in Beantown?
Something's wrong, isn't it?
Yep.
Aren't you watching it? And I know the Devers situation is getting louder and louder and louder. And if you start to believe the smoke out there that maybe they're looking for a trade suitor, if that's the case, this could get wild really fast. But frankly, the vibes just aren't right. That's AC over there as your head coach. And all of a sudden you got a superstar that's caused multiple issues this year because he doesn't want to play. He didn't want to DH, and now he doesn't even want to play defense anymore. This is becoming a very weird situation. One that I'm not sure Alex Cora has ever had to deal with, considering the fact this guy's been with the exception of his year suspension, of course, has really dealt with no issues and has had nothing but endless glowing reviews about how he manages a clubhouse. So watching this happen with the Red Sox, especially under his stewardship, is interesting, especially when you have other players in that locker room like a Liam Hendricks, who is a veteran who does not put up with a whole lot of crap.
No.
A Lucas Giolito, exactly the same type of guy. Something is very off on there. It's like that team currently has a poison pill in that clubhouse, and they need to figure out how to get rid of it.
All right, so you and I talk a lot about contenders, pretenders. I'm not even going to bring up Seattle because we already know where we stand on the Mariners.
You know I'm right.
We will see, my friend. All right, give me contender, pretender, and I'll give you 3 National League teams. We'll start with the Reds, have won 4 in a row, longest win streak in the National League. The Phillies and then the Cubs, both the winners of 3 in a row. Phillies now 10 games over 500. They will head to Colorado for a series beginning today. So Reds, Phillies, Cubs, contender, pretender for you.
Reds are a pretender. I wanted them to be a contender. I think they have the pitching to be a contender, but this team is just so damn inconsistent offensively. You never know what you're going to get out of them. You're going to get 20 runs or you're going to get negative 20 runs with 20 strikeouts. It's the wildest offense I've ever seen. I do think the Phillies are a contender. Absolutely. 28-18, even losing that arm yesterday to 80 games and no playoff appearances. It is what it is. Hopefully they're going to be very, very active during the trade deadline when it comes to an arm. And the last was the Cubs. Listen, I still have them as a contender, but I'm not going to pretend that that pitching staff is going to carry them through October. I do not think it will. Offensively, I think they can go as far as anybody else. Tucker is a star. They can absolutely do this, but they need pitching badly, especially in the back end of that bullpen. So I'm going to say contender, but contender light.
Yeah, Alvarado's not going to be walking through that door after testing positive there. A little banned substance issue going on there in Philadelphia. All right, also in May, we've seen these great runs. The Twins won 13 in a row before finally losing. Felt like the Cardinals weren't going to lose forever. They finally lost as well. Out of those two teams that feel like they've resurrected their season, either one of those two teams have staying power, or were these just really nice runs in May?
They're both really nice runs in May, but I'm going to say this, but please take it with a grain of salt, because if you've watched baseball for the last 25 years, I understand you wanting to throw something at the TV as I say this out loud, but I'm going to say the Twins. Hold on. I'm going to say the Twins, provided, and this is the biggest caveat that's ever existed, they could stay healthy. That is a huge caveat. We've already seen concussion protocol happen with Buxton and Carlos Correa.
Yeah.
Who knows what happens with Royce Lewis if he looks to the left or something. Just put everyone in bubble wrap. If they can stay healthy, this team's incredible. I'm not betting on it, though.
5 games over 500, plus 425 to win the division. Rocco Baldelli couldn't stay healthy as a player, and now all of his best players are getting hurt, too. What's going on with Rocco? They did win 13.
I'm just saying maybe there's something to that. Get a Mike Scioscia who played every day.
Get a catcher in there. Cody, you're the best.
God.
We appreciate your time on a Monday.
Gentlemen, have a great rest of the day.
There he is. Give a follow at Decker6. Breaking down the Final Four in the NBA and the NHL. That is next here. VSiN By The Books.
This is VSiN By The Books on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We begin our number 3 here, VSiN By The Books. I am Dave Ross here at Circus Sports, fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Our closer, Jensen Lewis, back home in Cleveland, Ohio. We stay in the great Northeast as we begin our number 3, and we go up to Connecticut to catch up with our guy, Will Hill. You can give him a follow on X at Not The Will Hill. Joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line, and also the host of the Should Have Bet More podcast. Will, what should you have bet more on this weekend, and what should you have bet less on?
Probably should have bet a little bit more on the Yankees taking 2 out of 3 from the Mets. Definitely should have bet more on that. Last night was a good bet. Plenty of things should have bet less on, but that's one that comes to mind, Dave, is one I should have bet more on.
Yeah, I figured you might go right to the Yankees on that one, taking 2 out of 3. Big slam by Belly in the 8th as the Yankees get up 8-2 and win 2 out of 3 there. But let's talk NBA, because Jensen and I have been looking at the Knicks and this wait, and the wait, as Tom Petty once sang, the waiting is the hardest part. We still have to wait till Wednesday. How does that affect the Knicks after that emotional series against the Celtics? Is that a good thing for them? Because we theorize it is, that there's some distance between beating Boston and having to play Indiana in Game 1.
Yeah, I think it's good for both teams. It's good for Indiana because they're just such a physical, press you in your face kind of team. All 48 minutes, they're just completely involved. They play like an NBA team, like no other NBA team in terms of like their just relentlessness. So good for them. Good for the Knicks too, because they don't play many guys. Tibbs, even up 40 the other night, he's got Brunson and all these guys running around. So to me, I think it's good for both of them. It is strange that we get such a long layoff. Pacers have been done for like a week now. Knicks have been done since Friday. So it is unusual to have this long of a gap. But ultimately, I think it's Knicks in 7. I think the Knicks were going to win that series last year. They were up 2-0. They were about to be up 3-0. They had a decent lead in Game 3, let that get away, got blown out in Game 4, and then just ran out of bodies and got run out of the building in Game 7. I think it'll be different this year. I think both teams will have their moments in this series. I think home court will hold up more in this series than it has in past series here for the Knicks, where the road team went 5-1 in that Detroit series between them and the Knicks. The road team won the first 3 games between them and Boston. I think that Indiana has their advantages on offense. The Knicks don't really have anyone that scares you in terms of guarding Brunson. I think this is a very good series, a very competitive series. So Knicks in 7 pays 4-1. I think that's a good bet. And all you have to do is get to a game 7, and you can kind of name your profit, take Indiana plus the points, and lock in a nice little profit there. And I did play over 5.5 games. It's juiced, -165, -170 in that range. I'd be shocked if somebody wins in 4. I'd be shocked if somebody wins in 5. Barring an injury or just one of the teams winning all the close games, I can't see how this goes less than 6. So to me, a good series, a long series. I think the Knicks are going to the finals. I don't think it'll be easy. I think it'll take a long time, but I think we're going to have the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals, which is going to be just crazy. It's crazy to say out loud. It's crazy to think about. I think they'll get absolutely dusted by OKC, and we'll get to that series. But I think the Knicks are going. Would be a hell of a moment for their fans, and I think they're winning this series in a long, drawn-out, exciting series. Plenty of Spike Lee and Reggie Miller next couple weeks, though. So get ready for those stories. Jeez.
Yeah. Not only that, but all the ridiculous celebrity sightings up and down. Can't wait to see what those ticket prices are for the courtside seats that none of us can afford. We look at this OKC and this this Timberwolves series, Will, and I think you and the rest of our great colleagues here had circled Minnesota before the playoffs started and said if there was one team that the seed number by their name is not indicative of the talent and the ability that they have, it would be the T-Wolves. Well, here we are, back to the conference final. I know you talked about the Thunder and how you feel that they can handle this series. What is a way to kind of attack it if there are Timberwolves backers out there that feel like they get a real shot to potentially pull the upset?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Timberwolves will have their moments in this series. I think that Edwards at any given moment can be the best player. There's depth, there's athleticism, there's a lot of things about this Minnesota team. They're rested, where OKC's coming off a 7-gamer. I just don't think they have enough. I think that we're going to look back, and it's possible OKC won the championship on Sunday by blowing out Denver, surviving that series. And remember, OKC was down 71-68 in Game 4, down 2-1 in the series, about to be down 3-1, and they were down 80-68 in Game 5. So they survived a couple of chances here from Denver. If Denver had a healthy Porter, healthy Gordon, who knows? Maybe Denver wins that series, but not the case. That could be OKC's last obstacle. I still don't love their crunch time offense. I think they can get bogged down a little bit. They're really good defensively, so I just don't know who guards SGA for Minnesota. I think Edwards can do it in a big spot, but they just don't want to put that sort of strain on Edwards night in, night out. And then do you go zone and just try to make him a shooting team? I don't know that there's a great answer. DiVincenzo's not going to work. Conley's not going to work. You just sort of go down the options here. And it's interesting. SGA is actually going against his cousin, Alexander Walker, on the other side. So, to me, I think OKC wins the series. I don't think it goes 7. I don't think it's a sweep. I'm torn between 5 or 6. I'll call it 6. I think Minnesota has enough to win 2 games here. So if Minnesota OKC in 6 pays 5-1, I don't think that's a bad payout. It requires clinching in Minnesota, winning the game 6 on the road, but that can happen. So again, torn between 5 and 6. I don't think it's 4. I don't think it's 7. I don't think Minnesota wins. I'll call it OKC in 6. At plus 500, I don't think that's a bad payout, but I think OKC, one way or another, is winning this series.
Well, because you're pretty definitive in the way you see these finals playing out, you'd have to lay $1.65 on OKC right now to win the championship. If you didn't want to do that, would you look at the exacta price of OKC to beat the Knicks at plus $1.95, or do you think there is a risk there? Obviously, if the Pacers beat New York, you're out on that ticket. Would you look to the plus money there, or just lay the juice with OKC?
Could do a little of each. I think this time last week I gave out OKC over the Knicks at 7-1, so I'm going to let that ride. But I think if you have nothing in pocket, just taking a unit and doing half on each might not be a bad way to go. That would be a strange final. Knicks and Thunder is a strange final, not as strange as Minnesota Indiana would be. And if anyone has ever come back from the dead, it would be David Stern. If he saw a Minnesota Indiana final, he might pop out of that grave and just start firing some refs or do something. But I think we're looking at a Knicks-Thunder final. Anytime you get the Knicks in the finals, Thunder have never won. It's been a while since they were the Sonics and they'd won. Whoever wins this title, Knicks, Pacers, if you want to count the Thunder as the Sonics, none of those teams have won since the 70s. Minnesota's never won. So either way, we're looking at a first-time champion or a first-time in a long-time champion, which always gives it some juice here to have some new blood.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's switch some gears here to the NFL. Dave and I have started to go through some of the schedules here for teams leading up to training camps, and eventually when we get this regular season underway between the Cowboys and the Eagles. I know you have a couple of plays you've added to your portfolio. Give us a sense of how you got there and which teams you're targeting.
We'll start with the positive. Monday morning, we'll try to be positive. I like over San Francisco, over 10.5. You get plus money. I would like to get an over 10 and even lay a little juice so if I can push on a 10. But just directionally, I think the 49ers, I think you guys have talked about it. A lot of people have pointed out the schedule is so much better than last year. Last year, it was the 5th hardest schedule in the league, and they had short week after short week. They were always the less rested opponent. They were at such a disadvantage in terms of the rest. This year, it's flipped. When you don't make the playoffs, you're not you're not the most popular girl at school anymore. You don't have to play on Sunday night and Monday night and Thursday night and all of these primetime spots, which leads to less rest. So easiest schedule in the league, not the disadvantage in terms of the rest. They actually have a rest advantage this year. And it just felt like last year they were old and tired and beat up. I think they needed a year to get things back in order in terms of their health. So we'll see what they get in terms of McCaffrey. I didn't think Purdy was great last year. He's a guy I'm higher on than I think a lot of people, but I admit he wasn't great last year. But to me, Shanahan's a really good regular season coach. Purdy's still a solid quarterback. They've got plenty of skill guys. Should be pretty good on defense. And if you look at the schedule, it's a lot of Titans and Browns, Panthers. Their division's not impossible. 2 against Seattle, obviously 2 against the Rams, 2 against Arizona. They can find their way to 11-6, 12-5 with what is a pretty reasonable schedule here. So I do like over on San Francisco. And then we'll get to the bad here. I don't see how in the world the Giants win 6 games. If you pull up that schedule, oh my goodness. At the Commanders, at the Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers, and this is just their games in a row. I'm not cherry picking games. At Commanders, at Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers. Okay, a toss-up game at the Saints. Better win that one. Eagles at Broncos. Eagles again. 49ers, Bears, Packers, Lions, Vikings, Patriots. I mean, my goodness. To me, that has 1-7, 2-8 written all over it, especially when you have a GM on the hot seat, a coach on the hot seat. Daboll, from all reports, is a fiery, intense guy, can be difficult to get along with. What does that building look like with their 4 quarterbacks in that room when they're 1-6 or 0-5? I would imagine that's going to be Dart at some point. To me, that has disaster written all over it, barring them just being much better than expected. I don't see how that team gets to 6 wins. So I would imagine by the time the season starts, that's 5.5 now. I wouldn't be shocked if that's 5. I don't know that they'd move a whole win to 4.5, but to me, that 5.5 is just not the correct number.
I wish there was a prop number out there, Will, that said the Cowboys will face 2 different starting quarterbacks in week 2 and week 18, because I'd hammer that wager. Because whatever it looks like in week 2, if it's going to be, let's ride, Russell Wilson, I can't imagine he's still the quarterback at week 18 with that schedule. It might not even be any fault of his own. Kind of like with the Steelers last year, right? But don't you think they'll at least be better than what it looked like? It looked terrible last year. It doesn't mean it might be better on the wins. They only had 3 wins last year, but it should look better with at least a professional at quarterback. I don't know how many more wins it translates to, though.
No, I would agree with that. And if when these markets start to pop up, first coach fired, anything like north of 2-1 on Daboll has to be the short shot, and the short shot by a wide margin. He's going to come in on the hot seat. That's the start to that schedule. I mean, that market has Daboll written all over him in my mind.
Really enjoyed this segment, except for the first part about the Yankees and Mets. Besides that, I thought it was a fantastic conversation, as always, with the one and only Will Hill. Check out the podcast. Should have been more podcasts. It is spectacular as well. When we come back, let's talk about the win total races in May right now. It's heating up, and maybe with a couple teams we didn't see coming. That is next here on VSiN By The Books.
Tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN By The Books, here on this Monday. Jensen, when the Cavs got knocked out, how was Cleveland the next day? Was it a hangover effect for a day or so?
I think it's still like that shock of are we really here with the regular season and how they played? And as I told you, the frat boy radio stations just talking nonsense about the Browns quarterback room. So yeah, it was, I think for a 24-hour period, you're like, I can't believe it's real life, but here we are. So now it's a long off season, long summer for Cavalier Nation, no doubt about it.
I wonder what it's like north of the border today with the Toronto Maple Leafs fans. So we bring in our friend Rachel Doerrie. You can give her a follow on X at Rachel Doerrie. Joins us here in the Progressive Guest Line. Rachel, we just have to ask the question, how are you? How is Toronto? How is Canada, dare I say, today?
I am depressed. I think the majority of Leafs Nation is not even like upset. They're angry. There's a lot of anger at this team. You have two of the top 10 players in the league and another guy who's in the top 20 and can't get past the second round. Like it's not even they can't get past the second round. It's that time and again, I believe it's now 1-14 in elimination games with that series of players. They just don't show up. Like you're getting paid almost $11 million and you have one shot on net in 2 games. Are you serious? Like, and that's kind of where we're at. And so it's a holiday in Canada today. It's Victoria Day. So there's a lot of the sports radio is kind of on a break and they're just simulcasting. Tomorrow is going to be something because last night I tuned into a couple of like the post-game shows and like the flaming magma coming out of the hosts, the callers, like this Ron from Port Colborne. I don't even know where that is. It was so angry. I was like, this man has had 17 rum and cokes and he is letting it fly right now. And so that's kind of where we're at is they're not upset like Jensen said. They're angry. Like people are angry at this team. The president is going to get fired. If not today, probably tomorrow. At least one, if not 2 of those core 4 players are not going to be here next year. And honestly, at this point, like you have nobody to blame but yourself.
Not Austin Matthews, all right? They're not going to deal Austin Matthews, are they?
I would think that would be a significant misjudgment. Listen, if somebody comes and blows your socks off and says, like, we'll give you, like, 8 assets, yeah, sure, like, you consider that. But at the end of the day, you're not getting better. Buffalo traded Jack Eichel. They thought they were getting better. Jack Eichel has a Stanley Cup. So it's a bad idea to trade a guy who scored nearly 70 goals and is one of the best defensive players in the league. I think that's a genuinely terrible idea. I think Nylander and Matthews need to be the ones that stay. Just given what they bring to the team, and Nylander performs well in the playoffs. But Mitch Marner, man, if I see him in a Leafs jersey again, I am personally going to have it out with the GM of the Leafs.
I love it. Great stuff. And to put a bow on it, Austin Matthews, 6 games, 7s, 0 goals. So that is going to have to be addressed. Okay, now what we have, though, Rachel, we have our Final Four for the NHL. We have our Eastern Conference final matchup. Now, let's look at it this way. I have 2 plays in pocket already. Anxious your thoughts on it. And I've always been a sucker for the puck line. And I just feel, knowing where this season has gone, we could have an opportunity yet again for multi-goal victories. Hurricanes, Panthers tomorrow night, Stars and Oilers on Wednesday. I went with both home teams on the puck line. And I do feel the Hurricanes may have a leg up here on the Panthers tomorrow night, knowing a quick turnaround for Florida. Size up that series for us and where you potentially see game 1 going.
Okay, so do I think Carolina may have an advantage on Tuesday? Yes. I do not think they're winning this series, and I honestly think that they might lose 4 straight, given how well Florida just played. We talked about this on Thursday. Toronto and Florida, regardless of how Toronto performed last night, Toronto and Florida are both better teams than Carolina is. Florida kind of looks like the best team left. Like, you look at the just utter dismantling, and now they're getting contributions from down the lineup. Like Eetu Luostarinen, Brad Marchand was the best player in the series. Seth Jones, incredible. And then you have Sergei Bobrovsky, who every so often just decides nobody's scoring. So I do think they have an advantage in game 1, the Canes do. But I think in the series, what I would probably do is wait for the Canes to win game 1 and then hammer the Panthers on the series bet. The Panthers just kind of look like a hot knife through butter right now. The one thing I would consider here, though, is the fact that when a team is playing well, the best thing for them is to continue playing. So it's kind of one of those things that's tough to handicap. But what I will say is I fully expect Florida to come out of this series on top. That they've shown they can shut down Carolina before. They do have the better goaltender. I think their defense is actually pretty evenly matched. And up front, they have more game breakers. And I think that their style is going to be very difficult for the Canes to deal with.
Rachel, you only have to lay $1.25 on the Panthers, even though Carolina does have home ice. Or you could play the Panthers to be the reigning defendings and get 2 cups in a row at plus 230. Out of those two numbers, which one would you rather play? Lay the small number against Carolina to at least get back to the Stanley Cup final? Or if you really do think they're just head and shoulders the best team left, is 230 plus 230 a fair number for you at this juncture?
230 is maybe a little too much for me. I'd probably wait till it got to like 250, maybe 270. Repeating it is very difficult. And the reality is in the Western Conference, like Jensen pointed out, like both Dallas and Edmonton are really good, like really good. And if we're being honest, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are the best players remaining not only are they the best players in the league, they're the best players remaining in the playoffs. And so you look at this and it's very difficult to repeat. Now, is there definitely more value on that? There probably is, but I do think only $1.25 for them to get back to the Cup final. I think that probably needs to be somewhere near 160. Ooh. So I think there is present value. There's more value on the series bet than there is for them to win the Cup, because I do think that the Dallas and Edmonton series is not only going to be a good one, but I do think the winner that comes out of that may have less they're going to be forced to play better, and so they're going to have less rust than maybe the Panthers will, because I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers Kane series is a shorter one.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. And also just kind of the idea, we've talked a lot of Conn Smythe and how Mikko Rantanen was just unreal, and how those odds have absolutely plummeted. I'm intrigued your thoughts on, do we look to potentially the goaltenders here now? Ottinger's 14-1 for the Stars here. Bobrovsky, as you talked about, now 9-1. If we don't feel that the actual future bets now for those teams respectively to win, would you rather target a team from either of those squads in Dallas as far as the net minors are concerned?
Yeah, I think there's some value. There's 4 Conn Smythe bets that I currently have. And thankfully every single player is still playing. Like we talked about, Rantanen, managed to get him at like 25-1, which definitely isn't available anymore. I would go in that same series. I would go Leon Draisaitl at 11-1. Connor McDavid is plus 350. Like that is such a discrepancy in value. And Leon Draisaitl kind of turns into a psychopath in the last 2 rounds. So I think there's significant value there. But I totally agree with you. I think Jake Ottinger at 14-1 and Sergei Bobrovsky at 9-1 are both significant value. I think when you look at Florida specifically, they don't have a player like Barkov, Reinhart, and Rodriguez. That line was completely shut down in the second round by the Leafs. So unless they have a massive rout against Carolina and a massive Cup final, none of their skaters are winning the Conn Smythe. And if Florida wins the Cup, it's going to be because of Bobrovsky. Same thing with Dallas. It's either going to be Rantanen or Ottinger. It literally can't be anybody else at this point. So I think there's significant value there. And if Edmonton wins the Cup, yeah, 11-1 on Draisaitl is a lot. And so to me, those are really valuable plays there. Even Rantanen at plus 400 still seems to be out of line. You know
who's not on that board is Stuart Skinner. He's 100-1 now. Is there no shot for Skinner if the Oilers win the Cup, even though he's playing at a pretty good level right now? No shot.
No. If you look at Stuart Skinner in games 1 to 3, he is Connor Hellebuck level unplayable. You look at him from games 4 to 7, he is unbelievable. And the thing about winning the Stanley Cup is you have to play games 1 to 3. So I don't know how that's going to go, because if he puts on the performance in games 1 to 3 like he did earlier in the playoffs, Jake Ottinger, they're going to be up 3-0, and it's just going to be curtains.
Ooh.
So I would not put not a single dime on Stuart Skinner. He is not to be trusted. And if the Oilers are going to win, it's going to be because their nuclear weapons show up and do some damage against the Stars and then against whoever comes out of the East. So I would not go anywhere near Stuart Skinner. If I were Chris Knobloch, I wouldn't even play him.
Rachel, the sun came up in Canada. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today. We'll catch up with you again soon.
Sounds good, boys.
There she is, Rachel Doerrie. Give her a follow on X. We're back with our best bets in a moment.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN By The Books, here in this Monday edition. Great conversation with Rachel Doerrie in the last segment. Got a text from Mom, says, I like Rachel. So do we. We enjoy having Rachel.
We all do.
Right?
Yes.
We love having Rachel on the program, even on a tough day north of the border there with the Maple Leafs being knocked out. But it is funny, Jensen, certain fan bases that we see, and again, it's applicable, right? Cowboy fan bases, certainly. I know the frustration of that. Yankees fans, I don't want to say it's entitlement, but they do believe like we are, I don't want to say preordained to win these things, but we should be there. You know, we were kicking it around with Will Hill, great conversation in the last hour about David Stern. If he was alive today as NBA commissioner, he would be appalled that it's not Lakers and Celtics every year, right? or getting those marquee names in there. But if you have Edmonton in the finals, and if you do, and you've got Connor McDavid, I think that that's going to translate. But there is some cachet that gets lost a little bit, and I think you're going to feel that in the NBA to a degree. If it's the Knicks, it's going to be insane. But I do wonder, there are certain teams in those fan bases, Jensen, that feel entitled that they should be there. That's not Toronto. But I think other fan bases across different sports do have that sense of entitlement that we should be there. If not every year, we should be in the mix just about every year.
Well, I think of the Steelers right away, because how many years have they wanted to fire Mike Tomlin?
Right.
And all he does is put up an over 500 record, regardless of the hand he's dealt, regardless who's playing quarterback, and finds their way in. And if you were to listen to talk radio in Pittsburgh, you'd think, okay, this is like a 5. It is hysterical because of the rivalry with us Browns fans versus Steelers. Like, we would give anything right now to be 9-8 every year and have a chance to get to the postseason. Anything possible to be able to have that kind of consistency.
Perspective is everything. And I think the point about Jack Eichel being traded away from Buffalo to Vegas out here,
yes.
You think Buffalo wouldn't love to have Toronto's problems?
Oh.
To having Austin Matthews and having Mitch Marner, it is interesting now. Once the seasons are over, like they are for Toronto, the way you evaluate your teams. But it's going to be an interesting offseason north of the border, to say the least. Let's get back to our best bets that are brought to us by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN today. You've got some baseball plays out there. One that I understand where you're going with it. I don't necessarily like it. But the Mets, tough loss last night, Sunday Night Baseball, going to stay on the road, going to Boston. What do you make of the Metropolitans and the Red Sox today?
Yeah, I'll back the Red Sox here, plus $1.20, and it has come down a bit depending on what books you're at. Plus $1.10 on DraftKings, plus $1.12 here on Circa. So do like Hunter Dobbins. Remember, we had Berkey on, Adam Burke, last week. Highlighted Dobbins, a guy that's thrown the ball well. Senga has too, and so perhaps runs at a premium, although that total a bit elevated there at Fenway Park, the way that both these offenses have been going as of late. But I'll take a shot on the underdog here at home. 6:45 first pitch there, and you're right, Sunday Night Baseball. Got to get everyone back together here and jumping up there to the Northeast. So Red Sox plus 120 official play for me on the money line tonight.
Looking at the Metropolitans in the East now, 11 games over 500, but with the resurgence here of the Phillies with a great month of May so far, only a half-game lead there. But there are the Braves at 5-1 in that division. I'm concerned always as a Metropolitan fan. And it's not even so much the Phillies. It's ironic because that's the team that's only a half game back. It is the Braves in the rear view that I look at. And at plus 425, is that number playable for you anymore for Atlanta? I know it's a tough stretch coming up here schedule-wise for Atlanta in May, but bigger picture, is that the bigger concern? Because I think Philadelphia's back end of that bullpen could be a train wreck right now.
Love that price. I picked the Braves to win the East at the beginning of the year. Nothing has really deterred me from that, and they're about to get healthy here at the right time. Spencer Strider going to be activated off the IL to make his first start back against the Nats. Ronald Acuna Jr. has looked great in his rehab appearances. He's going to be back here pretty soon. And I think I told you, it really, that was the one thing that if you looked at Atlanta just last year, for them to get to the final day of the regular season and have 2 shots to get in with all the attrition that they suffered throughout the year, it just gives you that much more respect for how Brian Snitker was able to get that club through a lot of those tough times. That being said, you're getting reinforcements. Now it's going to feel like trade deadline acquisitions, getting Strider and Acuna back. So I think for me, let's look at not only just the division, but if you look at also just to make the playoffs, still a very actionable price for me. If you're looking at Atlanta at minus $1.65, hey, you could almost ladder it to this point. Like, I mean, for the league too, they're plus 850. I told you about the Rangers I gave out. How about a Rangers Braves World Series right now at 90-1? That is completely doable, considering that both these teams have yet to really hit their stride.
Sounds like a disgusting postseason if I had to watch that. Let's get to the great line in a few good minutes. Markinson's not going to hold up, Danny. He's a crazy man. Are the Tigers going to hold up? Because I keep best record in baseball, 31 wins. Nobody else even has 30. They're going to be taking on the Cardinals today. They've been a great story in and of themselves. I know you like runs today in that game, but also, are the Tigers really the best team, arguably, in baseball? Bill Parcells always said, your record, you are what your record says you are. And so, yes, to answer your question, overall, the Detroit Tigers by wins are the best team. They have been so phenomenal at home, 17-5. They've been okay on the road, 14-11. The run differential says what it says at plus 87. I think there's runs scored, particularly tonight. You talk about teams that have been hot. The Cardinals certainly have been. And so just even in the matchup here that we get this evening, I love the over in this game in and of itself. Now, you're probably going to look at it and say, well, hang on a minute. Let's look at this game overall. And with these pitchers, and we have yet to have one announced yet for Detroit, but Sonny Gray, he got torched in his last start, and I do think there's a little bit of regression there. So the over 8, even if this is a bullpen game for the Tigers, the way the Cardinals, and I told you the biggest surprise for me for St. Louis, did not have in my bingo card number 2 team batting average in Big League Baseball, going up against one of the best pitching staffs in the league this year. Give me the over 8 tonight, official play for me on DraftKings. You've got to play tomorrow night in pocket here for game number 1 here of the Eastern Conference Finals. We mentioned the Hurricanes. They're going to be waiting for Florida now that the 7-game series is done with Toronto. They're coming in there. Even if you like the Panthers in the series, maybe not so much in game 1, right?
I am really hoping that Rachel's advice comes to fruition, because that was also an angle I had was, okay, Hurricanes rested. There's going to be a lot of talk about Florida and what they did, even having to go to 7 games. They will be overlooked a little bit. There's going to be a chip on their shoulder. And so I'd love nothing more than Hurricanes get a multi-goal victory here and then go back and hammer Florida for the series price. I do feel that that's a great angle. But again, Carolina continues to be that team, Dave, that no one talks about, right? And it was the same idea and I have FOMO on Scotty Scheffler now, because we said it on this program, like, no one's talking about Scotty here.
Rory.
And there he goes. So I don't know if Carolina is an apples to apples or apples to oranges even in that comparison, but for a night, and I agree wholeheartedly with Rachel, for a night tomorrow, I think the Hurricanes get the better of the Panthers.
Wednesday, they're going to begin the Western Conference Finals. Dallas is going to host the Oilers. We talk about Stuart Skinner in net. He has been terrible early in the series, then great at the end. But if you go with that equation, that could get you to the Stars here potentially on that puck line.
Yep, don't overthink it. Our great friend Jonathan Davis telling us too, games 1 through 3, Stuart Skinner is like you or me putting on the pads for the first time. And then game 4, he starts to remember how to do it all. So, yeah, Stars at home, some extra rest there, and to be able to get a multi-goal victory, love that at plus $1.95.
Pretty good price tag, and those have been very profitable so far in the Stanley Cup playoffs. G-Bank, most credit cards, of course, going to treat those sports book and gaming transactions as cash advances, not when you have the G-Bank Visa Signature card. That's going to be, basically, is going to treat those as gaming transactions as purchases. You're going to save 3 to 5% on your cash advance fees on gaming transactions right then and there. Also with G-Bank, you're going to get 1% cashback rewards on all of your eligible sportsbook and gaming transactions and 2% cashback rewards on all other eligible purchases. So apply now at VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSiN.com/GBank. Jensen, feels like tonight is the night that baseball can really kind of take center stage. No Stanley Cup, right? And no NBA. We'll get to those on Tuesday as well. Out of those marquee matchups that we talked about here with some of these new series beginning, is there a series that you really have your eye on? Of course, I'm looking at Boston and New York.
Boston, New York, of course, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, just the way the West has been thus far. I think a sneaky one is the Royals and the Giants out west in the Bay Area, two teams that have been great upstarts. Of course, the Tigers and the Cardinals that we just talked about. And then maybe sneaky too, can the Minnesota Twins continue this great run? They will host the Guardians and what is now all of a sudden become a pivotal road trip for Cleveland as they just got swept in Cincinnati.
13 in a row before that loss yesterday to the Brew Crew. Jensen, great stuff. We'll do it all over again tomorrow, my friend, right here on VSiN By The Books, but don't go anywhere. A numbers game, Gil Alexander, Kelly Bidlin, they are up next here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.